What's up, guys? So I got a special video for you today. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to be having different themes and topics on my channel. In today's video, I got my good friend Andrew Scopick. Now, Andrew Scopick has a very colorful past because he comes from many different modalities. But the topic of this video is we're going to be talking about high performance. So Andrew's background is high performance, sales performance, let's say holistic living. Like, how do you actually engineer and maximize your life to be the best for you and what you want to achieve in your life? So we're going to be talking a little bit about what we believe is high performance and a little bit tips for you to start implementing in your life so you too can live the best life possible. Andrew, welcome to the show, brother.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad you were able to make it up.
Yeah.
I know Albert's really excited to have you here.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, brother. And in terms of high performance, it's obviously a topic that some of us are excited about hearing more about.
Yeah.
Many of us, and I'm sure you as well, have already had an experience of, I feel like I'm performing at a high level. And then from there, it's a matter of trying to figure out, like, what is behind full high performance? So the study of, what are Olympians doing and what are CEO billionaires doing, and trying to get to a place where you can start to have a process and something you can fall on, a process and tools. So really, as the concept is, high performance is the feeling of full engagement, joy and confidence that comes from consistently living the best version of yourself. And, some of you may disagree with that exact definition, but that's more or less where we can have as a baseline for high performance. And it's nice to know that the focus that, I've had in health and the focus I've had in sales and corporate excellence really can come together and form a mutual bond for high performance.
Let's kind of summarize some notions out there because, even through my own journey of trying to figure out what high performance is, what would you say are your core tenets when it comes to this, say, umbrella term of high performance?
Well, the major pillars, as we like to call them, is in fact having enlightened levels of productivity, influence, clarity, courage, and energy. So you might have heard words in there that you're like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Energy, I got great energy. And then others where you're like, okay, that makes sense, but yeah, that could be an area I could work on. So if you're like me, I'm lucky enough to be able to have a variety of pursuits in areas that I find of interest, and I've tried to practice to the best of my ability. But again, this is an equation, and if you have some developed and others that are sort of, missed over, then all of a sudden it becomes a matter of like, are you really high performing? And what does that look like if you were to become a high performer? Yeah.
So what are some areas of, let's say, improvement that you would focus on to become a high performer?
Well, the one area is just clearly figuring out, like, why are you waking up in the morning? If you're not truly living with purpose and there isn't something passionate that you're getting up for, then whether or not you have an alarm clock that rises with the sun and you don't have your cell phone by your bed and it's in the bathroom and you get up and, you do your 5-minute journal, shout out there, loving the 5-minute journal, big piece of the equation, is to have the gratitude and to be grateful for those things that you do have, not the things that you're chasing necessarily. But I think ultimately you need to have a why, a reason. And for some, it could just be, well, you know what, I want to play with my kids. And they just want to perform better in their life. For others, it could be, well, you know what, I'd like to create a business that can support others who are less fortunate. For me, I love the idea of supporting friends and family, and improving their lives, but also, providing employment opportunities too. So the big thing for high performers is that they have a reason, they have a purpose. And so when you're talking about some of these areas that I mentioned, the productivity, the influence, the courage, the clarity, and the energy, you need to master, in fact, the concept of purpose, or at least be cognitive of it and always be looking at, like, what is my mission today? What is my purpose today? So that's one big area. Another one, in fact, is in fact, your psychology. How are you thinking? How are you acting? If you're waking up and you're like, I'm going to go watch breakfast television for an hour and then I'm going to go rummage through my email box. Are those thinking and activities, is that going to be congruent with, again, your concept of high performance and where that's coming from? So psychology is super important, and one that I've had to do a lot of work on, because if you're like me and you've had an illness or some major health challenge, for sure that the mind is going to be on a much lower energy cycle as you go through that. So in order to bring it back up, it's like a computer. You got to get the Norton antivirus in there and have a chance to boost that. So those are a couple of big points right there. Just having a purpose, the concept of psychology. Yeah.
Let's talk about purpose for a second, because that's a deep hole that people go into.
Totally.
What is my purpose of my life, or how do I find purpose? Based on your experience and based on working with people, what would you say are some key exercises or key activities people can do to kind of discover their quote unquote out purpose?
Well, I'm sure that you may or may not be doing this, but having a whiteboard, and not just for like tasks and things that you should be doing, to be focused on that, but to have some blueprint in front of you, to have some goals. Like, what is my 1 month goal? What are the things I need to do weekly, monthly? What are my goals in a year from now? And then what does 5 years look like? So from a purpose standpoint, what I often choose to see, and it's often very helpful for a lot of our clients, is that, are you chasing the future version of yourself? Like, I'm actually looking up to the 5-year version of myself. Matthew McConaughey said this when he accepted one of his awards recently, and he's in fact chasing the future version of himself. So I think from a purpose standpoint, I think it becomes a matter of like the purpose you put into it, but you can't just expect to hit a bullseye without having a target to aim at.
Reminds me of what Joseph Campbell talks about. He doesn't believe in purpose. Even Viktor Frankl talks about not having really have a purpose, but potentiality. It's like you can say I have a purpose for X, but if you're not reaching your potentiality, you'll never become that person you need to become.
Of course.
So you have the potential to become whatever you want to become, but what are you doing on a daily basis? The habits that you're forming, the lifestyle that you're forming to achieve your potentiality.
Right. Yeah, the tools, the process, and the habits. So again, the concept of high performance is one that's becoming a lot more common in terms of the conversations you might be having, but it's now becoming apparent that there's actual science behind it. And that if you study the world's top achievers, income earners, high performers, it's no longer just a matter of, I don't relate to Ameer, I like him, but he's genetically different. We're all genetically impressive, and unless you express that...
I'm a genetic weirdo.
He's super weirdo. It's good being a weirdo.
Yeah.
Einstein was such a weirdo.
Big time.
It was so awesome. But you know what? When it comes down to the concept of being a high performer, there are certain things that you can't change. Like if you were born messed up, and we were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
If you were born fucked up, then that's not something you can change. But what you can change is how you leave this world.
Yes.
So everything from birth forward is all up to you. And now it's possible to become a high performer with the right tools, the right process, the right systems, and obviously having the purpose in there and, mastering psychology. And yeah.
Is there any, let's say, resources people can go to kind of help them on this journey of understanding this purpose and understanding how they can achieve their potentiality?
Well, the thing I personally feel strongest towards is that high performance right now, for many of us, I know in the past, at least it was for me, it's a concept. One that's, that sounds attractive. What does that mean? And if you can find something that's going to give you more energy, give you more clarity, productivity, courage, or influence, there's a lot of things you can do. From a resource standpoint, grab a book whose title speaks to you. Maybe you need a little more courage in your life. And, And so maybe you're having issues with approaching girls. I know I've had that in the past. And perhaps what you need to do is read up on courage and ask for that date, or ask for that, make that phone call to that client that's been putting you off. And I'll tell you, the more consistent you are in showing up, how are you showing up? Your results will come back in that exact way that you're putting them out for. So from a resource standpoint, I mean, books are always great. Audiobooks are always great, but it's the application, right? You can be the biggest book nerd in the world. And, we hear about leaders are readers, and he polishes 60 books in a year. And, Tai Lopez is famous for being a huge book guy. But the difference is that guys like Tai Lopez and these leaders and readers, they're going out there and they're doing it. They're applying it. They're failing with it. So resources are only useful if you actually apply them and you put them into action. So books are great, but again, also get some intentional guide to start the day. 5-minute journal is great, but again, if you're going to be clear, have a blueprint or have some goals and have some things to look on. Even a vision board. I think that's a great resource. For me, when I turn on my computer, it has a vision of my exotic South American estate home that I plan on having. So I think those are the types of resources that you can start with. And then depending on where you end up, the next step is then possible. But I always think it's good to learn how to crawl, obviously, before you walk. And other than that, I mean, it's just a matter of trying and doing and that. But I mean, if high performance is something that is of major interest, well, it's something that you can, in fact, really get into it's about a 90-day process. And this is being proven in major ways with massive companies and infrastructure into the employee, baseline. But I hope that kind of gives a little in
it's good.
Way of resources.
I also do want to talk about one important thing about high performance, and that is, say, lifestyle changes, both from dietary, physical, mental, and spiritual. Because at the end of the day, you are only good as your body and your mind. So what are some things that you've done in your life to A, improve your body, and B, to improve your mind?
Well, that's a great question. That's a big question. We could probably go on for a while here, back and forth. I know that's one thing.
We'll do a Coles note.
Yeah, no, and for sure, I appreciate all the things that I've learned from you as well in lifestyle. From my standpoint, I do have a background in kinesiology, but I got the sales bug many years ago, and from there it's hard to look back. So, but what I did is I found myself offering clean living products, and I was suffering from a major health illness. And so from a lifestyle standpoint, a number of things started to take shape. And this didn't happen overnight. So if you're looking for a quick fix and something to chew off and like, okay, I'm home run, my life's over, over in a new direction, it's not going to happen. Lifestyle, number one, is about consistency. And again, it's about having that higher version of yourself, that role model that you're chasing. So big for me is that I had to address how I was living. So lifestyle is not just the actual living space that you have, but I also see it as like a habit thing. What are you partaking in? Are you going out every Friday, Saturday? I know we all have, and you're partying, and that's fun and that's exciting. But is that really creating the best version of yourself? But from a lifestyle standpoint, it wasn't enough for me to go read a book and then try to apply a few. I actually became a Czech practitioner in holistic lifestyle design. I got into functional medicine through FDN, just like Ameer did. Actually, Ameer inspired me to go that route when I was suffering my major health illness. But from a lifestyle standpoint, the biggest things I can say is master your 3. And the rule of 3 is simple. You can only go about 3 minutes. Some would say a lot less without air. Okay, so second, you can only go about 3 days without water. And then some would disagree, but usually 3 weeks or 30 days, somewhere in there without food. So if you're looking, instead of saying, well, is your food organic? Is it this? Is it that? You might want to take a look at the air quality that you reside within. because it is in fact the main constituent inside your body.
Yes.
And as Ameer was there to help me through it, I suffered from a major breathing breakdown, and it was a result of a number of factors, lifestyle associated, but also mold. Mold was a main factor. So, if you're living in a moldy environment or a toxic environment, or you're waking up to a toxic relationship, it's going to be hard to be a high performer unless you're doing the things you should be doing.
Yeah.
So, I had to go through a quarantine zone in my home to be able to get rid of that situation. But from there, it became a matter of, okay, what is the water I'm drinking, and what is the water I'm showering? And when I travel with a wrench, and yeah, customs tends to have something to say about that. So you gotta have the shower filter there in the hotels. So from a lifestyle standpoint, I find that everyone's got an opinion on diet and what to eat, how to eat, and everyone's a nutritionist, and that's great. That says a lot about the evolutionary trend that we're now in and going to be continuing on. But I think the one big lifestyle question I have for you is, what are you doing when no one's looking?
That's a good question.
That's one that I could sit here and just ponder and ponder. As we speak right now, I'm a couple of months out of having my Netflix subscription canceled. I haven't had cable TV in almost 4 years. There's nothing wrong with having a Netflix binge if that's your thing. I would rather be out in nature or at the beach and hanging with friends and just doing nothing except relaxing and unwinding. But the other question that you can have is as an outcome of thinking about what are you doing when no one's looking. Those that live wisely do not fear death. Now, I don't recall where the quotation came from. I'm not saying that it was completely made up by me, but a few of the words might have been changed there. But specifically, when you get to the end of your road, what is it going to look like? And yes, everything you do, everything you don't do, becomes a matter of how you end up. And I have one formula if you want a resource and a great lifestyle tool that's helped me be guided through a lot of sometimes complex situations, sometimes situations you don't even know are having an impact on you, like that relationship, like that environmental issue with mold, like your lifestyle issue. I have something that I like to go by, and I call it the 3Ds.
Okay.
To the big B.
Okay.
And so the 3Ds, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before.
I haven't heard this. This is new
but
to me.
the 3Ds to the big B. The big B is your big bounce.
Okay.
Right? And any high performer has the ability to bounce back.
Yeah.
Right? So, Ameer just put a project through the last 6 months. He hasn't seen a lot of people. He's been hustling, and he's a little tired. He's overwhelmed and wants to reconnect. Boom. How does he bounce back? So by using the 3Ds to your big B, you'll be able to bounce back and consistently maintain a high performance status. Peak performance has been given a lot of attention lately. And if we look at it sort of like just on a general graph, who wants this when you can have this, right? So consistency is key. So the 3Ds, do more.
Yeah.
Do less.
Do less. Yeah.
Do nothing.
Nice.
That's it. That's it. Everything in your life can be summarized by these 3Ds. That's it. So as an example, I'm looking over here. Are you sleeping enough? Okay, well, maybe you need to do more of that. Well, okay, how do you do that? Well, there's a lot of ways you can learn about sleep. I mean, it's becoming more and more of actually even a conversation piece.
Yes.
It's becoming something. Yeah. I know you did a lot of work with sleep. It was incredible when you brought that webinar and seminar vibe to sleep. It was awesome.
I know your investment for your sleep.
Yeah. If you're not investing in your sleep, then a conversation around lifestyle may not be at the point that you're quite ready for. You don't have to go and buy a super expensive organic mattress. No. And all the,
Sleep, to cut in short there, sorry. No. They just did a meta-analysis study on sleeping patterns. So basically they took all the sleep studies, they looked at any correlations, and common denominators and variables as well. And pretty much to summarize, the whole the whole notion of you can sleep 6 hours and less and be healthy is complete bullshit. Complete bullshit.
Yeah,
they found out one study correlated with people sleeping 6 hours and less that they were healthy. We are meant to sleep long periods of time, depending on the seasons, and we're meant to sleep in a deep REM sleep that we rejuvenate, we become healthy. And if you're constantly waking up, feeling tired, well, you're burnt out. You're not energizing. You're not healing your body. And your candle can only burn for so long until it's burnt out.
Well, and so it's funny you mentioned the candle analogy. That's one that was very true to my chest when I was having breathing issues. In Chinese philosophy, the candle is considered to be the simplest way to describe their three energy levels: Qi, Jing, and Shen. So you're probably familiar with some or all of these, but Qi is in fact your energy, obviously, and prana, as is transcribed in India.
Yeah, prana.
So how bright is your flame? But more importantly, you need a candle. You need that structure, and that's your Jing. So that's your reservoirs or your reserves. And then Shen is how is it illuminating? So the psychological concept there. So if you're out, you're eating well, you're working out, you're energized, you've got great relationships, but you're not taking a minute or two for spirit.
Yeah.
And for psychological rebalance, being grateful and creatively harnessing the energies that our spirit gives us.
Yes.
Your candle's probably not going to illuminate as many people as you'd like, and it's not going to bring the light that you're intending. So, going back to the 3Ds, we were touching on sleep. Do more, do less, do nothing. Sometimes you have to stop doing so much of what you're doing. Maybe you're watching a lot of TV, and you're wondering why it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Well, it's the weekend. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I've been there, so I'm not picking on you. But I found that the weekend was like, well, you know what? I'm going to have this. I'm going to have this food, and I'm going to veg. And I'm going to have like back-to-back movies. You know what? I'll be straight up with you. That's part of that was one of the factors associated with my breakdown, is that I was sitting for too long. I was comfortable, but I wasn't activating the parts of my brain, my psychology that I needed to be a high performer. And then lastly the do nothing. That's one where most people are probably the least familiar with. They know they need to maybe work out more, out, or stop working out so much.
Yes.
The only way you grow tissue is by rest. Ideally, 2 times a week for strength training.
Yes.
You should be active every day. Walking is a genetic process.
Yes.
If you're not moving,
And science is coming out right now showing that sitting is literally the new smoking.
Yeah. Well, even right now, I'm sort of like, I just want to kind of bounce a little bit.
Yeah.
But, the do nothing really comes down to maybe today's that day, like we were talking about yesterday. You do nothing. Maybe it's just that day. And you can have those days. They're not ill-advised against. The government's not going to come.
You should have.
They're required.
Days. Yes.
Most of the time, at least that what I've found, if you look at any of these strong scholars, religious masters, anybody who has provided a strong message to us and we want to read about, they've spent time in tranquility and whether it be in a jail cell like Mandela, they've still found time to find themselves. And if you're plugged in to a cell phone first thing and your computer and your TV and that relationship that you're like, it's good enough, but you can do better. And obviously even start by giving more instead of expecting more from someone, then at what point do you just kind of check in and say, hey, maybe I need to stop doing something to gain an idea on what I should be doing more of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. I think we'll leave it at that. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
For sure.
And
my pleasure.
Dropping all these truth bombs. If people want to get a hold of you, what is the best resource?
Best resource is to reach me by email at becomeahighperformer@gmail.com. Best way to reach me. And, if you have some questions, you have some challenges you might have, what I can do is I can send you a 6-page discovery. I call it the discovery document. And it'll give you a chance to think about some things, and it'll likely offer you some value. We're going to have that up at Become a High Performer later this week, becomeahighperformer.com. And, what I will offer to any of you who are interested in looking over the intake, or sort of as I call the discovery intake or document, if you wanted to complete that and you want a chance to create a free strategy, I will do that for you. 60-minute strategy.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
So,
thank you. Yeah.
you know what we can do is, the only thing we can do is support one another, and I'd be honored to, see if there's a resource I can recommend for you, or potentially if you're looking at a 90-day high performance boost, let's get it on and let's do it.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you, man. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
Peace.